Guys, this is going to be exciting. David Nino Rodriguez, former heavyweight champion, ranked 5th in the world when he was 36-0 with 35 knockouts before being jumped and stabbed and slit his throat by the drug cartels in Mexico. He lived in El Paso, still does, in El Paso, Texas, and knows all about the border. Matter of fact, in the podcast, he takes us to the border and shows you how it works. I want you to listen, though. Here, let me just give you a little bit of a taste of this podcast. You can find it at the Paul Begley Podcast. It is a YouTube channel right here on YouTube. If you just go to the Paul Begley Podcast, okay? I want you to listen, though, to the amazing story. At least let's listen to some of this. I'm going to give you it. This was a 1 hour and 20-minute podcast, but let me give you a few minutes of it right now with David Nino Rodriguez and, of course, my co-host, Paul Drew Begley. That's right, Paul Begley 2.0. Here we go.
You might know David Nino Rodriguez as a knockout artist with 36 wins in the ring, but his biggest fights happened outside of it. From battling addiction to rebuilding his life, he's faced it all, and now he's using his platform to speak out on some of the biggest issues shaping our world today. In today's episode, we get real about the chaos at the border, the deep-seated conflicts shaping global politics, and why the cartels aren't backing down anytime soon. Plus, we dive into the deep state debate, Trump's foreign policy moves, and the power of personal transformation. No fluff, no holding back, just straight talk on the fights that matter the most. So if you're ready for an unfiltered look at the world through the eyes of a former heavyweight champion, stick around because this one's going to hit hard. Our guest today is former professional heavyweight boxing champion, born in El Paso, Texas. He had a successful boxing career, amassing an impressive record of 36 wins, with 34 of those coming by way of knockout and only 2 losses. Known for his powerful knockout style, he was a top-ranked contender before a gruesome facial injury from an attacker outside of the ring temporarily sidelined his career. Since returning from boxing, he currently hosts an extremely successful podcast, Nino's Corner, where he discusses current events and political topics. Please welcome to the show, Mr. David Nino Rodriguez.
For those victories by way of knockout. Yeah, presenting in Texas. On David Nino Rodriguez. That's the man. Wow. I was like young.
That was 17 years ago. All right.
Yeah, man, that was like one of my biggest fights. I fought the giant. The guy was like 7 foot or like 6'11", I think he was. Damn.
You knocked him out, though.
Wow. Yeah, I knocked him out quick.
Yeah.
I know I would, but I just can't. Wow, that's crazy to see that. I don't even watch my fights anymore.
Right.
Look at them.
I had a grandson come to Florida and spend a week with me. I told him that he was going to be on our podcast. And he loves UFC fighting. And I said, no. Have you ever heard of David Nino Rodriguez? He goes, yeah, I have, but I don't know. So we went and watched 21 of your fights. Okay.
Oh, man.
And all of them were knockouts. I didn't put any of you lost. You only lost 2 anyway. And then
I lost 2 at the end of my.
At the end, yeah.
I mean, that was already.
I mean, you were 35-0. Is that right, David? At one point.
Yeah, I was 36-0.
36
before I lost. Yeah, and then I had that knife situation happen to my throat, my neck. And I just tried to bounce back too fast, I think. I just was an emotional wreck. It was like coming out of, like when you come out of a car accident.
Yep.
I don't know if anyone's been in a real.
Oh, I was in a bad one.
Well, you're in shock, right? That's how I was for like a year.
Yep.
And I jumped into the ring too soon, I feel. And I just wasn't calm and stable and collected in my mind. I was really just wanting to like exercise those demons, and I just wasn't thinking in my fights, and I got caught and I got knocked out. And so, you got to be very, when you're a professional athlete, much more so a gladiator or a professional fighter, you have to be very collected and cerebral. You can't be just an emotional head case. You can't be up there fighting out of anger. And that's what I was doing. So that's why I lost. But not taking anything away from these guys. But I was at the end of my rope anyway. I was towards the end of my career. I was 35 years old, and I really lasted a lot longer than I wanted to in the sport. I really wanted to get out of there by the time I had plans to retire at 32, and I stayed all the way till I was 35 because I didn't accomplish what I wanted to, and
Well, you were ranked 12th in the world.
five.
You got
five.
the 5? Okay.
Oh, wow.
So you were trying to get a title shot. I take it. I mean,
These guys, yeah, I was avoided like the plague because they couldn't figure me out because I was knocking everyone out so fast, and I had power in both hands, so they were like,
Yep.
man, he's just high risk, no reward.
yeah, they did. They were scared of you. Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's business, and I would say scared. These guys aren't really scared,
Right.
I wouldn't say it's more like just why the risk and no reward,
Yeah.
So that is just the way it happened, and I don't have any regrets now. I had a great career. I had a great run at it, and I got to exercise a lot of demons from my childhood, and now I'm doing podcasting, which is a lot easier. It's a lot easier.
Oh man, nobody's punching me right now. Not yet. Although a lot of them want to. I mean,
I'm telling you, man. It's like, man, I get to just relax and just talk to very interesting people. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But people don't know this though. Is the reason I got out of boxing really was my back. I had 2 like extensive back surgeries, L4, L5, S1 fusion,
wow.
and they put a cage in there.
Oh,
My whole spine, all the vertebrae were calcifying.
Yep.
It was that bad. It was so bad, and so finally got that fixed. But I was never the same after that. I couldn't even if I wanted to come back and fight someone like a Jake Paul for like a quick payday or something.
right.
I couldn't do it, and I can't. And I'm too beat up. I'm very injured. Like everything in my body hurts, and my neck is chronic. My neck and my back and my neck have chronic pain. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially a surgery like that with the fusion. I mean, your mobility and range of motion is probably extremely limited, especially when you're trying to get in there. And you were expected most of the time with your fights to knock somebody out. Not only knock them out, but knock them out first round, second round, third round. Then people are starting to get antsy, right? Hey, is he going to knock them out?
And that was the unrealistic pressure on me, man. Is I was too good for my own. It was too good for my own good. Like I was knocking guys out that I should have went the distance with. That I was knocking them out so early, and then you just get this kind of puncher syndrome where you're not happy unless you're taking these guys out because you're doing that to everybody. And it just I had too many expectations on me, man. People are going to my fights just to not to see me win, but not to see a good fight, but just to see the knockout. And it was way too much on me, man. It was unrealistic pressure I was putting on myself. Like no matter how good the guy was that I was fighting, I had to knock him out. It was
David talks a little bit more about his career, but then he goes into the demons and he starts to tell you about the demon of alcohol, basically, and what it did to him. And then he tells you why it happened to him, really, because he lived right on the border. He would just go across the border into Mexico, into the bars, and then you could drink at 13, 14 years old, and he was running wild and coming through a very difficult childhood. But becoming this man, and becoming this tremendous boxer. But at the same time, the drugs, the alcohol, the partying, it was just terrible. David, in this interview, folks, will tell you that. He'll tell you how through the power of God, and through Jesus Christ, he was delivered from alcohol, and he just told us that he's been sober 5 years and 2 months. And he's just a changed man. He'll tell you how that works. But then he takes us to the border. We start asking questions about what's going on at the border now that Trump is in. And he literally takes us and shows us footage of the border in this interview. It is phenomenal. He takes us on location, and you get to watch the film of it right here on this broadcast, on this podcast. So go right now if you want to watch the entire podcast, and I highly recommend it. It's one of the best things that my son and I have ever done together is this interview with David Nino Rodriguez. You'll find it at the Paul Begley podcast. It's on Spotify. It's on Amazon Music. It's on iHeartRadio. It's everywhere the podcasts are. And it's right here on YouTube. If you just go to the Paul Begley podcast YouTube channel and subscribe. We've already got 278 subscribers. Subscribe and watch it. You'll be glad, folks. You'll really enjoy it. God bless all of you. Are you serious? Wow. I'll be back with more current world events and how they relate to biblical prophecy. We're living in the end times. It's the Paul Begley podcast.